And we are back and excited to be back. Yet another episode of Square State Sandlot and Kyle Gilmore joining me. I am your host, Bill Montoya, and we've got lots of things to talk about. NBA free agency just kicked off this evening, so there's a lot of news with that. Trades, rumors going around. Got NFL talk, and we have some college football that's not the Wyoming Cowboys. So we'll get into all this, but jumping right into NBA, which is the topic of the evening. We talked about the Warriors winning the championship last episode, and the draft just happened. They drafted Patrick Baldwin Jr. A lot of guys were kind of, I don't know, a lot of the analysts were kind of scratching their heads saying, I don't know. I mean, he's not ready yet. But one thing that the Warriors have done very well, and they've done it for several years successfully, and that's developing guys. So I look for Patrick Baldwin Jr. to be one of those Jordan Pooles that, you know, has to work his way up and become a valid piece of this rotation. And obviously we got a lot hinging on what happens in free agency, on whether he'll actually be on the team or if he'll start down in the G League or whatever. So I know you don't follow basketball too close, so I don't know if you watched the draft.
I didn't watch a lot of it. I mean, I saw who they took number one, and other than that, I really wasn't watching. I was still curious what the Magic were going to do, which I'll get to that shortly. But as far as this pick, I actually did see a lot of the analysis, but the part about this that makes me laugh is when you're a team like the Warriors who, you know, have won 4 out of the last 8, you're able to make picks like this. So I don't understand why they're always scratching their heads, because you don't have to have, you know, the next number one guy on your team when you're the Warriors. You come in and get a guy like this, and it's obviously a good locker room. It's a good coaching staff. Like, these are the kind of picks that you make when you're in their situation, because you're looking for bench guys at this point who then could develop into maybe future starters. I've never understood that, because they always tear apart these picks, but it just makes perfect sense for me if you're the Warriors.
Yeah. And like I said, they've got Looney that they developed. They've got, everyone that's playing significant minutes on the team other than Wiggins, they drafted. Yeah. So, I mean, they have that developmental organization and a world-class organization. So it shocks me, yeah, like you said, that people are still baffled by their picks. But we'll see how it works out. I mean, they seem to strike gold quite often. So
the thing I love about it is give it 5 years, and if he's contributing and doing well, the same people that are condemning the pick will be talking about how great he is. So whatever. Yep. I thought it just makes sense to me. I don't know enough about the kid, but
no, and quite honestly, like, college basketball has fallen so far out of grace for me. Like, it's essentially a 1-month sport now, and that's March Madness. So I think that's when most people tune in. I've watched quite a bit of Wyoming basketball this season just because of how well they were doing. But it's also tough to watch them because they're not on all the channels and whatnot. So
I definitely watched more this past season than I have in years. I mean, obviously, same reason we were doing well, but
for sure. But so to the big news of the NBA, and that is, so the other day we had the saga of Kyrie Irving, where no one was sure what he was going to do, if he was going to opt out. Rumors were he didn't want to be in New York anymore. Obviously, that relationship soured after last season, where he only being available for essentially half the season and only road games. So that obviously put a strain on the relationship between he and the team. But as soon as he decided to opt in, it looked like it was going to be okay. They're going to try to run it back one more season. Well, today we got the news that Kevin Durant has requested a trade. I don't know what's going on with this. I really don't. It seems like KD got everything he wanted from New York, and they were willing to build a team around him. They made trades to build that team up around him. They're in a good position to be in the East and contend for that title, assuming Ben Simmons plays, which I guess that may be part of the factor, is no one knows what he's going to do. And then Kyrie, you can never really count on him either because of his background.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like every time the going gets tough for Kevin Durant, he bails to another team. So,
Well, and so I don't know if this is true or not. I saw earlier today, I'm not even sure where I seen it, that he was the two teams that he's targeting is the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat. I don't know if that's true or not.
are you talking about the number 1 seed in both conferences?
So here's my thing. This is what drives me nuts, man. This is what the NBA is now. It's like, okay, we didn't make it far in the playoffs. I need to go to one of them teams.
Yep.
And it's just like, that's what, I don't know. It's just so weird to me.
Well, and the crazy thing is he just signed that 4-year extension last year. So he's still on the books for 4 years.
None of that matters anymore. Not in today's league.
And this is the point of the NBA where it's like, okay, do the players have too much power versus the NFL? NFL, they essentially have no power once they sign that contract. It's kind of what the team wants or will void your contract essentially. So.
When it comes to them getting paid in contracts, I'm always going to be on the players' side. Even being part of the team, things like that. I'm always going to be on the players' side. But in this part of the business, you need to let the team do what the team does. You don't build the team, you play the game. And it has gone way, way from that. That's all it is just who can build the better super team. And I'm not even talking about teams, it's the players.
Yeah.
I think people like LeBron obviously have pushed this atmosphere.
Durant contributed it as well.
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
When he came to Golden State.
And I just think that's the landscape of the league right now. And it's very frustrating for me. But
if you look at the teams that were, contending last season, it wasn't the super teams. It was the teams that drafted well and developed their players and stuck them all together. Warriors traded for Wiggins. I mean, that was the only non-draftee that really contributed this season. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like the league is in a healthy spot, I would say, but at the same time, you have, these guys trying to force their way out and things like that. But you also, the league has kind of created this as well because you're punishing teams for drafting well. I mean, the Warriors are going to be so far into the luxury tax this year if they make any signings, and that's just bringing guys back. I mean, Jordan Poole, they're going to have to pay him. Kevon Looney, they're going to have to pay him. If they pay these guys, they're going to be paying so much money in the luxury tax, and that is just stupid to me.
It's terrible.
I understand that you don't want to have juggernauts, but at the same time,
if you drafted them,
you can't pay the same luxury tax dollar as if you're just buying a guy off the street, as if you're just paying your own.
Right.
There's got to be incentive to keep the guys on the teams that they're drafted to. You're essentially punishing loyalty by the teams. So that's what I don't.
In my opinion, if you draft a team and you continue to do well, no one can blame anybody but themselves if they're another team. You've built it as opposed to buying it, and as a fan, that's always going to be what we want to see, at least if it's my team.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy. It's a weird dynamic because they also like those blockbuster trades. They also like that movement as far as media and social, the buzz. So I don't know. So it's just a weird dynamic in the league nowadays.
It is. But speaking of, you mentioned the Magic.
Man.
What's going on with the Magic?
I don't know if it's going to happen, but I should have known as soon as I made a comment about possibly, jumping back in and following somebody else. Old Shaquille O'Neal jumps in to save the day. All that's happened is he's stated, his team has stated, if the Magic are up to sell, if they're willing to sell, he would buy today.
Yeah.
Which, oh my God, I would be so happy because all Orlando does what bottom feeder baseball teams do. All they do is breed talent and send it elsewhere. So for someone like him to come in, he's going to want to win. That makes me excited. That would probably get me all the way back into basketball, watching the Magic like I did when I was younger. For obvious reasons, ties to Shaquille. But I don't know. I was so excited to read that. I kind of lit a fire under me, so I got to follow this and see where it goes. But
yeah,
exciting stuff for a very frustrated Orlando Magic fan base.
Well, and they had their pick. What did they pick? 3, or were they first? I can't remember.
Number 1, they
were
picked.
first. Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name now. Everybody was questioning that pick as well, but
they've got all the young talent on that roster. You just got to build something with it.
I was going to say, I will give them that. They do have a pretty good young team, but they haven't been the same since Dwight left, honestly. We went on that run, got our butts kicked by the Lakers in the finals, and then you had people like Dwight go, Tobias Harris left, Aaron Gordon left, Victor Oladipo. Like, it just, all we did was get these guys primed and then send them somewhere where they could compete, which, back to what we talked about earlier, is kind of the name of the game to some degree for some teams nowadays.
Yeah.
But I just think Shaquille would be a change of culture.
Paolo Banchero.
Thank you.
If that's how you say it.
I know that's close to how you spell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just exciting stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I'm excited that you're getting back into the NBA because, I mean, like I said, I think it's an exciting product, especially last year where you had 6 teams that very easily could have won the whole thing. And obviously my team ended up doing it. So it made me pretty happy. But I think that the league's pretty healthy right now.
Yeah. And then that's it. I mean, some of it was, obviously this would light a huge fire under me, but having not watched for a while, I kind of lost touch with, the player base. So paying a little more attention the last 2 seasons is, kind of drug me back in a little bit. I talked about Marcus Smart, some of these players that I've enjoyed watching. So it's a slow process, but I'll get back in it. And plus, I mean, doing the podcast is a big part of it. If we're going to talk basketball, I'd like to not sound like a complete idiot.
Yeah.
I do that enough anyways. It's fine. I think that's all we have for NBA. We have some good topics with the NFL, and by good, I mean horrible.
Yeah.
I'll let you dive into this one.
Okay.
I've talked about it enough.
Well, and unfortunately, we have to keep talking about it because it's in the news cycle, and there's no resolution yet. In fact, today they finished their 3rd day of deliberation on the Deshaun Watson case in terms of the NFL. As we stated before, he had settled 20 of 24 in the initial civil suits. And I don't know what happened to those other ones that come up, but I guess they probably settled before they actually went to civil cases. So
I'm guessing.
I think that's what happened because everyone just stopped talking about those ones. But there was a leak to the NFL from the NFL, most likely, to the Washington Post, basically saying we're looking for an indefinite suspension for at least 1 season, and then we'll essentially readdress after that. So what they're trying to do is we're going to do at least 1 season, test the public opinion after that, and go from there.
And I'm glad you put it that way. I'm so glad you put it that way because I'm so frustrated by this plus what we're going to dive into after this.
It's essentially the NFL strategy with a lot of this stuff. I mean, they just kind of hope they announce something, kind of hope things go away, and then, public outcry goes away, and then, okay, we'll bring him back is what I think they're looking for.
I completely agree.
And now we're awaiting, they said they're waiting for a ruling. I think they said now mid-July will be hang on, catching up real quick. Yeah, it says briefs due to disciplinary officer Sue Robinson in mid-July. So it sounds like we're not getting any immediate response on this. I was hoping by the end of this week it would all be over because the way that it sounded is we should have something Tuesday. Well, then Tuesday turned into Wednesday turned into Thursday, and now it's Thursday, and now it's mid-July. So,
well, and another fun tidbit for the Browns fans, if we have any listening, on the same day.
Is there such thing? Browns
Well,
fan?
I actually do. I do know one. My good friend Ed Cobb, his stepdad is a diehard Browns fan, has been forever. So this one's for you, Beaner. But yeah, he on the same day that all this stuff kicked off, Baker Mayfield was having a fundraiser and doing all of these things that you would hope your star quarterback would do. And I know some people don't think he's a star quarterback, but he's the best thing the Browns have had in years. And the Browns basically
Bernie
made this state,
probably.
basically, old Johnny Football. No, they made the statement that they wanted an adult at the quarterback position, basically a grown man. Well, now you have the guy that you're trying to back, allegedly a part of all of this, and the guy that took you to the playoffs and actually put some wins in the win column, and he's out there doing fundraisers and just kind of doing the right things. Don't get me wrong, he's put his foot in his mouth a few times, but it's just the most Browns thing ever to continue this farce. Like, I can't even. I just can't.
It's really annoying. And yeah, Baker definitely didn't do himself any favors, especially playing hurt. I mean, because the team's not looking at it like, he's playing hurt, so he's doing the best he can. It's no, he's not getting it done. We don't care why he's not getting it done. So, yeah, I mean, we won't rehash this. I hope it's more than a year, and I think it should be. But based on what I'm hearing from around the league, it's probably going to be a year, and then maybe, we'll throw on a couple games to satisfy the public, and then he'll be back in there. So
I have to say one last thing before we move on. There is one person who is absolutely thrilled with everything going on, and his name is Jacoby Brissett, because he's week 1 starter for the Browns.
Yeah, well, and
he's pumped.
That's one question that I can't remember who posed it to Baker. They said, if the Browns end up needing you week 1, are you going to be available? And he said, I can't remember what he said. Basically, the Browns would have to start that conversation, and I haven't heard anything, so probably not. So, I mean, I wouldn't close the door on him playing for the Browns, but it sounds like the Browns are ready to move on from him, and obviously he's ready to move on from them. So I think even if, they get news Deshaun's going to be gone for the whole season, I think they're still looking to move on, and I absolutely think Seattle and Carolina could both use him, and he would be a great contributor there. So we'll see what happens with that. But on to the next court situation with the NFL. We have Roger Goodell last week, or I think it was early this week even, got called to join Congress virtually to represent Dan Snyder, since, Dan Snyder's conveniently out of the country, and apparently his phone doesn't work from outside of the country. It's weird. But anyway, so he did the best job that he absolutely could have done in covering for Dan Snyder. Essentially didn't answer any questions directly. And he even alluded to he's pretty sure Dan Snyder's not running the team right now. He's pretty sure.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked about this. We've talked about this saga kind of since it kicked off. I'm so disappointed in the NFL and Roger Goodell. I would have liked them to put some distance between themselves. This move by Snyder is a joke. I just hope they can find some kind of resolution. And I mean, it's no different than the last topic we talked about. I just hope that they, the punishment fits the crime, so to speak.
Well, and you had Roger Goodell 2 years ago basically say, I can't remember who it was in regards to, but no, it wasn't the Gruden thing. It was before that. Anyway, he basically said the conduct policy applies to me. It applies to owners. It applies to anyone in the NFL, players, anything. And it's quite clear that it does not. I mean,
yes,
this is Roger Goodell, a lawyer, standing up for his client, which is the NFL owners. He's taking the bullets for them and allowing them to sit in the background, and he's the public face of all this. And he's the bad guy, not Dan Snyder, and that's what they pay him $60 million a year to do. So it's frustrating for all of us, but he knows the law. He knows how he can answer these questions where it's not directly answering, it's not incriminating anyone and all that, and that's why he's making the amount of money that he does.
Oh, so absolutely. They're stalling. I mean, that's all this is.
Exactly. And Snyder actually refused the subpoena that they were trying to give him to bring him in and talk to Congress. And I don't know anyone could just be like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. But
anymore, it's a pretty common thing.
Apparently billionaires can do it.
If you don't want to go, you don't go.
Sorry, I'm out of country that day.
Yeah, be it politics, NFL, I mean, whatever. Yeah. Subpoenas aren't what they used to be.
That's for sure. So this is frustrating in all regards, because it seems like we have all the evidence that we need to say this guy needs to be removed from ownership of a franchise. He's not able to run it. And the frustrating part is the Redskins, or not Redskins, excuse me, the Commanders, the Commies,
the Washington Football Commanders,
are putting out these statements saying, look what we've done since 2019. We have done all these initiatives and all that. It's like, okay, that's great, but let's talk about pre-2019.
Yeah,
that's what we're worried about. It doesn't have
anything to do with the incident or the series of incidents. That's like saying you murdered somebody, but I've been doing,
been real good since.
Yeah, I've
been
matter. Part of the community since then, so
yeah,
it's all good.
And that's kind of what they're doing, brushing this all under the rug. That's what Goodell was saying. Look at all these things that they've done. We've had all these internal investigations, and since 2019, they're sterling. So yeah, it's frustrating because, I mean, in all likelihood, he's going to get away with it, and he really shouldn't, and he's going to continue to run this team.
If something does happen, it still works out to where he's going to make a boatload of money out of it. Like, there's not really – that's the frustrating part, is I don't see an outcome where, quote-unquote, justice is served in this instance. Yeah. It's kind of the dark side of the way some of this works with these leagues is there's so much gray area and so much red tape that everybody has to go through, and I get it. It's literally due process.
I don't think it's gray. I think it's green.
Touche.
That's all that matters.
I mean, as far as, the Roger Goodell and NFL involvement, they're going to stick in that gray area. We're not going to pick a side, basically.
Yeah. He's got lots of money, so we're going to stick with him. Yeah.
We're just going to stall until something happens. I don't know.
So other big news in football, and it's not NFL, it's college football related, like we alluded to at the top. You have UCLA and USC leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten, and this is pretty disturbing to me because essentially they're going to finish out the last 2 years of their TV deal with the Pac-12, and then they're going to the Big Ten. We've already seen the SEC absorbing teams like Texas, and I can't remember who else they scooped up, but we have basically all the power players consolidating to 2 or 3 conferences. I don't think the Pac-12 will be able to continue on after losing UCLA and USC. There's just not enough money in the conference. Obviously, they could pick up some smaller teams, but that's not going to drive the revenue streams like UCLA and USC will. The previous commissioner for the Pac-12 absolutely ran this conference into the dirt with the TV deal that they set up. And I mean, it was just a nightmare scenario all the way around. But how do you see this affecting what we now know as the Power Five, what was previous, the setup that it was? What do you see happening to college football?
Well, the Power Five is dead. Let's just go ahead and say that now. This is the equivalent of every good player. That's not even it. This is the equivalent of every good team in the NFL all going to one conference, maybe even the same division.
It's you mean the AFC West?
Oh, there
2022.
You go. So, I mean, that's basically what this is. And me and you have talked offline, and I personally think in a perfect world, the NCAA would do this with all sports, to where your college has become an affiliate, a minor league system of the NBA, the MLB, the NFL. I think there's a way that money can work there. Obviously, the colleges would get kickbacks and some of that revenue. I think there's a way to work that out. And with doing that, you would have set divisions, no longer this, we're chasing TV deals, or, we're trying to change the competitive level of this, and that. Just do away with it. Go to the same setup as these professional sports, and turn them into minor leagues because – and I mean, you made a note of it. The Power 5 has gone to a Power 2, Power 3, and really probably Power 2.
Yeah.
You're eliminating competition. The competitiveness of the entire NCAA football has gone down the drain. I mean, it's not even – it was already so top heavy, in the last 10, 15 years. I think it's a step in the wrong direction that this keeps happening. I guess I'm very frustrated on the college level period between transfer portal, this kind of movement. There's no consistency whatsoever in it anymore.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it's the wild, wild west, no more rules and just, we'll do whatever and it's okay. I don't know. It's frustrating. We're already in a small market for us being, Wyoming. All this does is spread that gap even further.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a positive for me. I can tell you that. It's weird to me that all these conferences I grew up with are no longer even recognizable.
Yep.
And it's crazy to me.
Well, and
I don't know.
The Pac or UCLA and USC make no sense being in the Big 12. All the other teams are basically Nebraska and East. So logistically, it makes no sense. And yeah, I think structure wise, I don't know what makes the most sense. Like you could have, obviously you have your NFL. Below that, you could have your Division I, if you want to call it that, where you have the top teams do conferences, do all that, set it up just like the NFL. You can have your Division II, same thing, do it by location. You can, play your schedules. West plays the West, East plays the East. Best teams from each play each other at the end, kind of like a Super Bowl or whatever. But as it's currently structured, that's what worries me is Wyoming. Where are they going to land? I mean,
well,
and the power structure right now, if you've only got two conferences that really matter, those are the only ones that are going to be factored into the finals for the college football playoff.
Well, and that's my big concern too, because we all know money drives all of this. At the end of the day, all that matters is money.
Yep.
So you take somebody like Wyoming. What happens if people in our conference all bail and we're all that's left? Are we just? I mean, if we're not bringing in revenue, what does that leave us? I mean, where do we go from there? Do we drop a division? Do we just dissipate?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of terrifying for a small market team. I don't know. It's not good. I'm not thrilled.
And that's what I'm thinking. If with all this restructuring, I think eventually it lends to being a professional league. You pay the colleges to use their facilities and their logos and all that stuff, which in turn may solve one of the issues, and that's tuition going through the roof to help prop up some of these sporting teams and things like that. So maybe long term, it's actually a good thing. You don't have to do the NIL to get paid. You just get paid for playing, and you work out your sponsorship deals and whatever off the side, just like the pros do. I think that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's scary I don't think Wyoming's in any risk because you've seen their facilities. I mean, they're top notch, even though it's a small state, but it's the only college in the state. So
right. I'm more concerned years down the road, lasting impact if the market shrinks, things like that.
For sure.
I guess it's the unknown. Terrifying.
It is. Yeah. I mean, you don't ever want to be delegated to a lesser conference or a lesser league or whatever. And that kind of seems like it's probably going to happen with all this restructuring. So it's not a good thing.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we should crown our NHL champions, huh?
Oh, I'd love to. So
take it away.
The first time since 2001, old Colorado, the Avs finally. this was the Colorado Avalanche finally won. This team has been knocking on the door for a handful of seasons now. They were just missing a few things. I think Makar coming to the team was a big deal. That kid is unreal. But at the end of the day, I was so happy to see Tampa Bay lose, and I'm so happy to see Colorado beat them the way they did. It was pretty decided finish as far as except for one game, really. I don't know. It's exciting. I'm super happy for everybody. I do have to say a couple things. The first one being there was a lot of Colorado Avalanche fans this season.
Yes, there were.
Which was very interesting for me because
haven't seen them since 2001.
There's generally a pretty small group of people in this area that talk hockey and, get behind it regularly. So, and I'm not bashing it. I'm really not. I'm super pumped. I know Trent, who we had on a couple weeks ago, he started following them and enjoyed their playoff run and stuff. I'm thrilled to have more people watching hockey, but it was funny to me. I just seen a lot of posts, a lot of talk. But lastly, the Avalanche winning is directly linked to the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby, so you're welcome. Nathan McKinnon in his interview said that each night he would call Sidney Crosby for advice, so that's why you guys won. You're welcome, Colorado. That's all I got. They were a fun team this year. It was a good time watching them. Just really good hockey.
One thing to add, and that is a shout out to Raph for this beauty right here that he sent me.
What? It's blurry. We can't see it.
Oh, is it that? What is it?
You gotta get it. It's your little app thing.
Yeah,
I see a shark.
Anyway, it's a Miami themed San Jose Sharks jersey for hockey. So that'll be hanging up in the office here shortly. But I wanted to show it. So shout out to Raph for sending that over. Since I'm the only Sharks fan that he knows.
The only one ever.
Yeah, probably. Especially since Jumbo left. But anywho, so other news I got just real quick. We've got
exciting stuff.
Yeah, the A's and Howard Terminal. I can't remember what they had a vote of some sort, escaping my mind right now, but they got enough votes for the binding vote to basically clear the port authority for the port where they're trying to build Howard Terminal.
It was all about zoning, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the vote was today. I think they got 22 of 24 yes votes. So, or 22 of the votes were yes out of the 24 that voted. So there's one major hurdle into building Howard Terminal there in Oakland. So it's looking pretty positive, and I think some of the pressure was added by Major League Baseball by letting it slip that, hey, we won't charge the A's a relocation fee if they decide to go to Las Vegas. So I think that kind of woke up the council there, and they said, hey, let's get this thing done, because if not, they'll be leaving. So obviously the Warriors and the Raiders already left Oakland, so A's are the last ones holding on. So I think they didn't want to lose that team,
man.
And then what do you got for your Pirates?
Just last thing I want to say is it's still a lot of fun watching these guys. Even when we don't win, they're battling, the old battling buccos, but it's all about the rookies. I'm still, Bly Madris came up. He's still playing great. Everybody's super excited about O'Neal Cruz. He's been playing pretty well. His average isn't super impressive. I think he's at like 217, 219. But he's playing well. Hit a couple dingers. He hit one tonight. We're up 7-4 over the Brewers right now. But the real story still for me is Jack Sawinski. He also hit a homer tonight. I'm still riding that high from Father's Day at 3 homers. Last night, Brian Reynolds hit 3 homers. So it's exciting baseball right now. I'm a broken record. If we ever get a good pitching rotation, a solid contributing pitching rotation. We have some guys that are starting to come along. Brew Baker's looking pretty good tonight, but if we ever get that rotation solved, we're going to be a pretty competitive team. So Measured optimism still, but I love this rookie class. This is fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, and we actually called up an exciting rookie, Jonah Bride, and he was playing very well. And then he and Pinder got in a collision out in right field, and he had to go on the IL.
What did they ever drop? I was watching that, and I never saw information. Did they say anything about the injury yet?
I think he just has a shoulder strain. Sounds like he'll be back in 10 days, but it's frustrating because he was building all that momentum and really playing well, both on defense and offense. But they did send down Christian Pache today, which probably good because he has struggled all season. I think the only reason he stayed up as long as he did is because of injuries that they had. They had Skybolt go down before the season. They had Pinder get hurt. Piscotti got hurt. So he kind of was left up as a necessity, but I hope he goes down, gets some confidence at the plate, because we've seen he's an absolute all-star out in the outfield, but he needs to do it at the plate as well if he wants a chance to stick in this league. They also sent down Adam Aller, who has actually been pitching pretty well out of the bullpen. Obviously was not good at all on his starts. I think he had 3 starts this season and had a 10+ ERA, so not good there, but he's done well out of the bullpen. So they're sending him down to get some more practice in Las Vegas. They brought up Adrian Martinez for his second start of the season today. He'll be pitching here in 20 minutes or so. Brought up Machine, brought up Sky Bolt from the IL, and then they sent Jed Lowry to the IL as well, and Adam Kolarek was designated for assignment. So a lot of moves with the A's. Season's not going well. We've talked about it many times, but I do like to see Nick Allen got brought up. He's playing very well. Elvis Andrus has been hitting at DH because he's actually been hitting well, but like to see the defense of Nick Allen since that's his specialty. So just a lot of exciting things, but not necessarily translating on the field just yet. So we'll see. And like I said, the biggest win today was that vote that they got. So if they can finish with momentum, then hopefully John Fisher can say, hey, I'm going to get top dollar for this team now, and I'm going to sell. That's the hope for every A's fan, I think, at this point. So with that, anything else you wanted to say before we call it?
I got one little nugget that I'm going to drop. I already know your opinion about it, but I figured it was worth mentioning. I did see that they are projecting 2024 as the robotic umps.
Yeah.
That is interesting to me. Don't get me wrong. Old Angel Hernandez really gets me frustrated. But with that being said, it's such a huge part of the game. It's absolutely heartbreaking to me that we're moving in that direction.
It's just balls and strikes. They're not replacing all of the umpires.
True. I apologize for the box, basically.
Yeah. What I have heard is what they're doing in minor leagues right now is they're essentially doing a challenge system. So it's not the robo umps or the automatic ball strikes. It's not that yet. The only time they use that is if the ump calls an egregious play, they can quickly challenge. If it's a ball and he called it a strike, it quickly gets reversed, and then they continue the at bat or they move on. So
it's going to take 6 hours to watch a damn game.
Well, that's the best thing is it's instant. They already know if it's a ball or a strike. So if they say review that, they just say, yep, that was a strike. It's just like in tennis where you see that automated where it hit on the court. It's just like that. So within seconds, you already have an answer if you want to review it.
Guess.
So I
see what happens.
I think that's a better system rather than overhauling the whole thing, because you hate seeing a catcher lined up clear outside, and then the pitcher brings it all the way back over the plate, and maybe it does cross on the inside corner, but you hate seeing that rewarded because
I agree.
You're not rewarding the pitcher for throwing it where he's supposed to. You're just saying, yeah, well, technically that's a strike, So I would like to see some kind of system like that where it's not fully automated, where it's maybe a quick replay.
And obviously they're testing it down, lower leagues. So they're doing the right process. I get all that. It's very weird taking away that element because it's such a huge part of the game. I mean, they plan their game around umps. So it's always been that way. It's just very weird.
Well, and you don't want a guy calling the exact strike zone on 10-0 blowout where they're just trying to get the game in. It's like either get up there and swing or I'm going to call a strike.
No, I agree completely.
So anyway,
but I just had to bring it up.
Fair enough. All right. With that, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is obviously a little bit quicker one than we normally do, but hope you guys enjoy. And as always, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share it to your friends. We'd like to get some questions in. And thank you for tuning in.